Hey guys, it's Greg Yetter, and I'm back with another update on the Mini-MBA. The Mini-MBA is my attempt to get the education of an elite MBA program without the expense and without the full-time time commitment. Today I'm updating you on the second course that I took for this class, which was actually a book that I thought would help set me up for the rest of the Mini-MBA. The book is called Case Interview Secrets, and it's primarily meant for people who are looking to get a job at firms like Deloitte, McKinsey, and Bain. But what I thought was interesting about it is it gives you a really strong framework for digesting and processing business cases. As you may know, the business school curriculum, in addition to a number of classes around running a business, also has a lot of cases, and a traditional MBA student may get as many as 500 cases throughout their 2-year program. So as a supplement to all the classes that you're taking, you're going to be given cases that are relevant to the coursework. So I wanted to download cases for myself, but before doing that, I wanted to get a good framework for looking at them so I can make better decisions and analyze them more thoroughly when reading the cases instead of just wasting $9 each time to read the case and not extract the most insights. So one of the ideas I had of going into these cases was that I would not just read the case all the way through. I might read some of the background information and then try to process the case and come up with my own answers before reading what the actual conclusions were. And indeed, this actually happens in business school a lot. A lot of times you'll get assigned a case without answers and then you'll discuss it in class. The case interview secrets method is not the only method of looking at cases, and it certainly talks about much more than just the cases. It talks about how to act in the job interview and things along these lines. But overall, I thought it was a good starting point, and I would recommend reading it, although I would say it's not necessarily required as part of the Mini-MBA. But I do want to give you some of the key insights I took away from the book in hopes that maybe it will help you if you decide to read your own business cases. And there was one key insight that I thought would be really helpful for presenting a lot of information in the future, which I gained from this book. One of the first things the author talks about in this book is creating a hypothesis for your case. In the scientific method, the hypothesis is a question that you try to disprove or prove based on supporting evidence. And in the case method, they actually want you to do the same thing. They don't just want you to come up with an intuitive answer or hide your reasoning. They want you to think out loud and create a hypothesis that you're going to try to disprove. And following from the hypothesis is the concept of an issue tree, where you're organizing the key ideas that could prove or disprove the hypothesis, and then going down each one of those trees in order to try to solve the hypothesis. Now, the thing is, when you go down one of these trees, you might actually disprove your hypothesis, and then you'd have to come up with a new hypothesis. This is actually a good thing. They want to see you do this. But the idea is you solve one part of the tree and then see if the conditions of the hypothesis still match. If not, then you go revise your hypothesis and then test out the remaining conditions and any new ones that might come out of your new hypothesis. One of the things the book talked about is that in the consulting world, people don't want you to just give a solution. They would much rather have you walk through the problem with them and think out loud effectively. Now, in a case interview, they actually don't really care if you get the right answer. They'd much rather see your reasoning process, even if you got the wrong answer, which I thought was super fascinating. But it makes sense, because in the real world, you're not going to do things often in a vacuum. You're going to often interact with other people. And if you can walk other people effectively through your own thought processes, then you can both come to an answer much more effectively. In some other case interview methods, there are many frameworks that they want you to follow, but the author says that one of the problems with trying to memorize tens or hundreds of frameworks is that you would get too locked down in trying to apply a specific framework to a case without really applying critical reasoning. And a lot of times in a case interview, at least, and in the real world, the situation is not going to follow an exact template. You're going to have to improvise and come up with your own unique solutions. So really the author only presents one or two main case frameworks, and then he shows you how you can modify the different frameworks for the specific case at hand. Now, I don't want to get too much into that here. I think you can go look at it and read the book if you think that would be helpful. But the main idea is that you want to come up with a hypothesis, and then you want to come up with different questions that support the hypothesis, and then see if you can prove or disprove them. And that's how you come up with an effective business case. One of the other ideas the author presented was the concept of making a hypothesis and an issue tree that is mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. That means that you're not asking the same question multiple times over, but amongst all the questions that you're asking, you are going to solve pretty much everything you would need to know about the case. Now, the idea is not to go too deep with any specific area. You want to try to come up with ballpark answers for things that don't really matter too much. For example, if the company is losing money, it doesn't really matter if they're down 10 million or 100 million. We know they're losing money. And we don't need to come up with the exact decimal point answers when we're doing calculations. We just need a ballpark answer. And this happens a lot in consulting. They're not very precise. They're more directionally correct. The other thing that I thought was really key about this book was the idea of synthesis, and it's a way of presenting information that's clear and thorough. So the way synthesis works is that first you present your conclusion. You present your conclusion first and your recommendation. Then you present the three main pieces of supporting evidence, no more than three supporting pieces of evidence, and then you restate your conclusion. So instead of telling a story about something, you should try to always frame key pieces of information in terms of, here's the conclusion and recommendation, here are the three pieces of information that support that, and then once again, here's the recommendation. And I think, if you're giving a 1-minute pitch about your business, for example, this idea could be really helpful because you're getting it right out front what you do, you're saying why you do it, and then you're reminding them what you do at the end of the pitch. Even with my videos, I'm trying to do this, probably not super successfully yet, but I think that, I'm trying to present the idea up front, give the three main pieces of information, and then give you a conclusion. And I think this is a really digestible format for people, so it makes a lot of sense. So I thought the Case Interview Secrets book was not totally a requirement for the Mini-MBA, but it could be helpful. If you like what I'm doing with the Mini-MBA, we've got a Facebook group, which I've linked down below, that you can check out. You can follow along or share your own self-learning project. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great day.